Good morning. Today is Wednesday. It is the 23rd day of Iyar. And we begin today, chapter 51 in the Tanya. Likutei Amarim, which is the first part of the Tanya, has 53 chapters. And we're getting, in these last three chapters, Alter Rebbe sums up the whole purpose of this book, of the Tanya, which is to guide each and every one of us how it is easy, how it is doable and easy to achieve the serving of Hashem based on the verse that he began in the introduction of Tanya. That this thing of serving God is close to you in your mouth and in your heart, and to do it. And Alter Rebbe systematically explained in the chapters earlier, explained the need, why we need to have the mitzvahs, the actual mitzvahs, why we need to have the love, do it with passion, with fear of Hashem and love of Hashem, how to achieve them. And in chapter 35, the Alter Rebbe asked, he quoted from the Zohar about what the Yenuka said. The Yenuka was the child. It was had a very high neshama, high soul, and he was teaching very deep thoughts. And he said that what Shlomo HaMelech says, King Solomon says, "V'shemen al roishcha al yechsar," you should not have a lack of oil on your head. And he explained that there is the neshama rest on the head of a person. The soul is on her head, and the soul needs oil. The soul needs oil. The body is like the wick, the soul is the fire. But in order to get the fire going, you need oil. Now, what is the oil? The oil, he explained, is the actual mitzvahs. The physical, the mitzvahs, the commandments of God that involves action. And he explained and he asked, why is it important to have the action, mitzvahs of action? Why isn't it enough to have like to have the soul itself has the neshama, the physical, the neshama itself, the spirituality of the soul itself should keep the fire going. Why does it need physical action? And we explained that no matter what, even the greatest tzaddik, that he has this desire to be connected to Hashem, it's all at the end of the day, it's his desire to connect. And that's why we need the mitzvahs, need the physical mitzvahs, the mitzvahs of action that God commanded us to do. And that is therefore used as the oil to fuel the fire of the neshama. Because this is something that you're doing what Hashem wants. It's not that you want to connect to Hashem. It's not about you. It's about pure godliness. Now, once you explain that the main thing is action, then the question goes the other way around. If the main thing is action, why don't we focus on the action? Just do the mitzvahs, whatever God commanded. Why is it important to have the feelings and the love, the fear of Hashem? I just do what Hashem wants. And this, the Alter Rebbe went on to explain, he compared it to a bird without wings. You can have you can have the body, but if you want the actions that you do to be elevated, to be soar up high, and to connect to the higher spiritual realms, we need to do it with passion, with love. And Alter Rebbe then went on to explain in a few chapters to explain how does one achieve fear of Hashem, awe of Hashem, and different levels of awe, and then to the levels of love, how do we achieve love to Hashem, as we explained in the previous chapters, until we finally explained in last chapter, chapter 50, the highest level of love that a person can achieve is such love that you totally give yourself up. You want to connect to Hashem and expire. And then of course we explained how you have to land back down on earth with the 2 feet on the ground, because this is the purpose what Hashem wants you. And here now in the last three chapters, Alter Rebbe goes back to explain the importance of actions, mitzvahs of action, and how Hashem dwells in this physical world through these mitzvahs of actions. And he's going to explain by raising the question, what does it mean when we say that God dwells here more than somewhere else? Isn't God everywhere? So let's look inside as we begin chapter 51. Vehine, says the Alter Rebbe, l'teisves biur loshen hayenuka de la'el. A further explanation of the words of the Yenuka mentioned earlier in chapter 35. Where the Yenuka was quoted as saying that the light of the Shekhinah, the light of Hashem, God's presence, which dwells upon a Jew, needs oil, meaning good deeds. And the question that we raised, what is the connection? What connection do good deeds have with oil? Which usually refers to Chachma. Everywhere in the Zohar and the old places is explained that the oil represents Chachma. Chachma is the wisdom. It is the beginning, the top of the person, the highest level of person. And here we say that the oil is the lowest thing. Action, physical action is the lowest part. So this we need to understand. In order to understand this, says the Alter Rebbe, tzorich levaya techila lehavin ktsas inyan hashroas hashchina she'oisa sheira bebeis kodshei hakadoshim. It's necessary to first explain so that one may understand a little the concept of the Shekhinah, God's dwelling that is dwelt in the Holy of Holies. Saying the Holy of Holies, God's presence is there more than anywhere else. And the same thing also in other places, it says, V'chol makoim hashroas hashchina. And every time we say that the Shekhinah dwells, like for example, it says, Kol beyasara Shekhinah sharia. Wherever the 10 Jews, the Shekhinah is there, God dwells there. So we need to understand, what does it mean that God dwells somewhere? Surely the whole world is full of His glory. There's no place that is void of Him. So what does it mean that we say that the Shekhinah dwells somewhere? Now, in order to understand this, the Alter Rebbe goes to explain that we can see when we learn a little bit of the human condition, the way the soul vivifies the body, the way the soul animates the body. Alter Rebbe is going to explain that based on understanding, we need to understand a little bit on this condition, we will understand the concept of the godliness dwelling in this world. And he bases it on a verse that it says in Job, as it says, that it says, from my flesh I see God. That's what it says in Job. That means that when you understand the flesh, the human condition, you can understand godliness also. The truth of the matter is, this concept that the human condition, that a person is in the image of God, is not only in Job. It's right there in the beginning of the Torah. And it says, Nase Adam ketzalmeinu kidmuseinu. Let us make a man like our image. So why does he need to pick a verse from Job, which is much later in the Bible? And that's from the very first book of Genesis. So the answer is because here in Job, in the Genesis, in Bereshis, we only see that God created us in his image. But in Job and Iyar, it states clearly that from my flesh, when I understand my flesh, I can understand God. I can understand godliness. This states clearly in Iyar. That is why he quotes this verse. So he goes to explain what does that mean. Says the Alter Rebbe, Shekemoi shenishmas ha'adam hi memalo kol ramach evrei haguf meroshoi ve'ad ragloi. Just by way of analogy, the human soul pervades all 248 organs of the body from head to foot. Ve'af al pikein, nevertheless, Ika mishkana ve'ashra'asa hi b'moichoi. The principal abode in a revealed form and dwelling place is in one's brain. And from the brain, the soul is diffused throughout all organs. Now, let me just explain a little bit what he's going to explain in the following lines. It says, when we think about the soul animating the body, generally speaking, there is two ways the soul animates the body. We're not talking about the spiritual soul. We're talking about the vivifying soul that keeps us alive and keeps us functioning. So you have the general life that the soul gives to the body, meaning the body, each part of the body is equally alive. The foot, the eye, the brain, everything is equally alive. And it receives the life from the soul. Then there is also the more individual life force that comes to each organ. The eyes receives a special life force from the organ to be able to see. Same thing as the foot to be able to walk, and so on and so forth. Now the question is, where does it change this life force to become an energy that is able to see, an energy that is able to smell, to touch? Where does it come from? This obviously everything is rooted in the soul. The soul is of course indivisible. You cannot separate saying the soul has parts of it is able to see, parts of the soul is above division. So some would say that the organ shapes the energy. For example, when you take clear water and you put in a cup, and if the cup is painted a certain color, you would see a different color of the water. That means that the cup, this vessel, shapes the energy. Since this, the Alter Rebbe, this is one way of seeing it, but the Alter Rebbe doesn't accept it. And it says we must say that the change occurs not when it comes to the vessel, but in the soul itself. Not that the soul is divided, but within the soul, there is the energy that has the potential to be enclosed in a certain organ. And how do I know this? Why can't we say that the change happens after? Because you can see it that when something happens to a certain organ, then the soul, the brain, the soul which rests in the brain mainly, feels that particular organ. If the changes would be in the organs, not within the soul itself, then the soul wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the pain that comes from the foot and the pain that comes from the hand or anything else. So that means that there is the change in the shapes of the certain energy that comes from the soul to this particular organs. In potential, it's already there before it goes out. And this is, Alter Rebbe goes into these details in order for us to understand. The better we understand this concept in the human condition, we will be able to relate this to the idea, the way Hashem, which is indivisible, the way He rests in different parts of the world. And that is why the idea that some places God's dwelling is in more than in other places. So let's continue and we'll see how the Alter Rebbe says this inside. So once again, way of analogy, the human soul pervades all 248 organs of the body, from head, the highest part of the body, to the foot, the lowest part of the body. Nevertheless, the principal abode and dwelling place is in one's brain. And from the brain, the soul is diffused throughout all the organs. And moreover, says each organ receives from the soul, a different form of life. It says here a different form of life, but in the Hebrew it says the chayus, the life. As the Rebbe explains, as first of all, there is the life that each organ receives, which is equal to all organs. And then there is also the koyach haroi loy lefi mizgayut chonasei, and the life force and the power that is appropriate to it according to its composition and character. Ayin lirois, the eye is to see, has the ability, the life force that enables it to see. Ve'oizen lishmoya, the ear has the life force that it has the ability to hear. Ve'apeh ledaber, and the mouth to speak. Ve'araglaim lahalich, and the feet to walk. Kanire bechush, as we clearly sense, shebemoyach margish kol hanifal beramach ivorim. This is what we mentioned earlier. That the brain, as we clearly sense how in the brain, one is conscious of all that occurs within the 248 organs. Everything that experienced by them. So therefore, we must say that within the brain, within the soul itself, we're not talking about the essence of the soul. Within the soul, there is the potential, the powers, the energy that is connected with certain parts of the body. Now, says the Alter Rebbe, ein shinui kabolas hakoiches ve'achayis shebe'evrei haguf min haneshama mitzad atzmo musa. Now, the variations in receiving the functional powers and life force by the organs of the body from the soul, each organ, mitzad atzmo u'mousa, receiving from the soul life force and power in different forms, does not derive from the soul's essence. So that we should say that its being and essence is divided into 248 different parts. That doesn't make sense. The soul is not divided into two different parts. That enclosed in 248 different areas, according to the design and various locations of the body's organs. That you cannot attribute to the soul. You cannot say that the soul is divided. Because according to this, it would follow that the soul's essence and being is designed in a physical design and a likeness and structure similar to the structure of a body. God forbid, you cannot say this about a soul. Elo, rather, kula etzem echad ruchni. The soul is entirely a single spiritual entity. Pashut umufshat mikol tziyur gashmi. It is a simple, plain, and uncompounded, the spiritual entity, and is divested of any physical design and of any type of definition. Mufshat mikol tziyur gashmi ubchinas geder makoim umida ugvul gashmi. It's divested of any physical design and any type of definition of physical space, measure, or limitation. Mitzad mahusa v'atzmuso, the soul is free of all such dimension by virtue of its intrinsic being and essence. The soul is above these divisions. V'lo shayech b'mahusa v'atzmuso lo mashi b'moichin shabaroi sheisem b'raglayim. And it is not valid to say concerning the soul's being and essence that it is in the brain of the head more than it is in the feet. Why? Since its being and essence is not subject to the concept of dimension of physical space and limitation. The soul is not physical, it's not limited. So what we do say is that they have in potential included in the soul, you have the potential of these different powers. Rak shetaryag minei koiches v'chayis klulim bo b'meuso v'atzmuso lotzeis ela poyel v'agiloi me'elem. Rather, it says the 613 kinds of functional powers and vital forces are included within the soul, within its being and essence, to become actualized and to emerge from this concealment. And this is in order to animate the 248 organs and 365 blood vessels of the body. And this is through the functional powers of the divine soul becoming enclosed within an animating or vital soul. Which also possesses the corresponding 248 and 365 functional powers and vital forces. So this, says the Alter Rebbe, is what we learn from Mibesari Echaze Eleika. From my flesh I see the godliness, as the Alter Rebbe will continue in tomorrow's lesson and the next day in this chapter to explain how this is also true when we're talking about the godliness and the godliness dwelling in this world in different places. And this brings us to understanding what it means that in us there is also the dwelling of Hashem, and the way we do it to make sure that the dwelling of Hashem in us should be in the fullest way is through the actual mitzvahs. So this is the end of today's Tanya Shir. We're going a little deep over here, trying to explain as much as possible. And we shall continue tomorrow, Be'ezras Hashem. So thank you all for joining. And make sure when you listen on YouTube, share this, whether it's on Facebook, share this, subscribe and like and help to share the words of Hashem. And we shall see you tomorrow, Be'ezras Hashem. Any questions we can take now?